Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome along once again to the Apex Online Racing GT3 iRacing League. This week we will be having our maiden voyage at a new track on the iRacing surface here at the Hockenheim ring in Germany, home to the German Grand Prix in F1. My name is Brayden Hill. I'll be alongside you here today in the commentary booth. Unfortunately, Nick will not be able to join us as per usual tonight, so I'll be flying solo. But we appreciate you joining us here on the Apex Online Racing broadcast booth. Qualifying just having finished up, Mike Skeppers currently sitting on the pole alongside Owen Blythe. No surprise there to see V3 Racing representing that front row. Kiefer McKenna going to take home the third position, followed by Dan Alpel. So that's at V3 Racing 1, 2, 3, 4. Then Rasmus Varblan from Radix Racing. He will be in the fifth position, followed by Andy Gorton, who had a little bit of a rough week last week in Daytona. Isaac Yen from Fiercely Forward, going to be in the seventh position, followed by Michael Kinsep. Then in the next row, the pole sitter for our AMs, Daniel Weber, with another strong showing, up well within the top 10 of the overall standings here from Cabor Motorsports. Then Silver Tam in the 10th position. John Hallowell from V3 Racing Venom going to be in the 11th position alongside Chris Yardley. Then next up, Asher Blythe going to be heading up the 13th position alongside Renault Luke. Daniel looks like his name got messed up. I have to fix that again. But I will be sure to do that. David Gowrie from the Centurion Racing team. Tom O'Connell from Beat RT. He is in 17th. Stephen Brumfields from Centurion in 18th position, directly behind his teammate. Then David Van Abelbel is going to be in the VDA Racing Machine back in 19th. Thomas and Tot in Race Motorsports, Esports I should say, in the 20th position. Then Yost from Cabor Motorsport, Arun Gund in the 214. Then Daniel Casalu and Andres Ansu, so a couple of reserve drivers there. Then rounding out the back of the field, Stefan Komke and Marvin Sluman. Now we'd like to bring your attention to the top of your screen. A little bit of something new to keep an eye on is this new overlay. Going to be a little bit easier, hopefully, for your viewing enjoyment. But in the meantime, it is Mike Skeppers sitting on pole, and he will have control of the field as the pace car comes to the inside. And already green flag, hard on the gas, goes Mike Skeppers as he is already clear. But a big move from Dan Alpel from fourth all the way into second. What a move there. Already up 2 positions for the BMW 151. But behind him, slotting into position, is the Lamborghini. Oh, and now going down to the inside is Owen Blythe. A solid move there, and already that racing going to give Mike Skeppers quite a bit of breathing room to start off with. And a little bit further back in the pack silver, Cam trying to hold on to a few positions here in the 188 Radix Racing car. If you take a look at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a little bit of preview of the livery you're looking at and whatever driver. Alright, hopefully that'll help a little bit there. Apologies for that. Let's get right back into it, though. Dan Alpel trying to defend his current position. He's fallen back a good bit since his spectacular start there at the beginning of the race. Peter McKenna down 3 spots as well from his original starting position. He falls in line currently behind Isaac again in the 112 Lamborghini. Oh, big move from to the inside. I believe that is Asher Blythe as well as Kiefer McKenna. Both of them showing a nose to the inside of their nearest contenders. So a lot of movement here from the V3 Racing team. Hard not to talk about them almost constantly, isn't it? Because of how many cars they have out there on the racetrack representing. Right now, looks like some issues for John Hallowell. Stephen Bloomfield has also made his way into the pits. So not too sure what happened there, and I apologize for the technical difficulty there, so we're not going to be able to get a replay either, but looks like we have lost a few different drivers. We've lost Hallowell, and I believe we've lost Bloomfield car, as the driver's now coming down that back straight away, going to make that hard right-hand turn now. Alright, so coming into the Mobile 1 curve, turn 11 is Kiefer McKenna. He is currently leading ahead of Wrestling for Blonde, so that's 2 Lamborghinis currently, actually 3 Lamborghinis, I should say, in a row, led currently by Dan Alpel in that BMW number 171. Isaac Yen with a really strong showing since coming into the series at Daytona. He has made a pretty good name for himself so far in that fiercely forward machine, number 112. The Lamborghini seems to be an interesting platform, certainly driver's choice as to whether they look for the stability that you get in something like the BMW or the Mercedes with those front engines, but from what I've heard in the paddock, that Lamborghini seems to be a rather unstable platform to race on, but it has quite a bit of raw pace if you're able to tame it. So too is the case for the McLaren. It looks like we've had a crash a little bit further back in the pack. Let's see if we can take a look at that. So it's a 248, just as I was talking about that Lamborghini being unstable, lost it coming out of the final corner, coming out of the front straightaway, so the number 248 may be out of this race. Certainly going to be a lot of damage to that car. Not too sure then. Isaac again still trying to put some pressure now on Dan Alpel here. Doesn't look like we've been able to make any progress, not too many changes here towards the front of the field. A lot of single file racing, but you know, it is a new track that these drivers are racing on, so it is to be expected that it would take a little bit of time for them to get used to everything that's going on around them, kind of getting used to racing at this track. I believe iRacing hasn't even had an official week in the GT3 at this track as of yet, so these drivers really had very limited opportunities to practice in any sort of race conditions, and now having to put it immediately into practice. And here you're seeing Kiefer McKenna in the 191 racing machine, currently in the 6th position. If we could look a little bit further down the field, our leader in the AM category, Daniel Weber, making a very strong statement here. He is here and ready to play. His teammate, of course, having some struggles a little bit earlier, as we saw in that replay, but that very brightly colored pink livery Audi, certainly very strong, and it's an interesting point of note that Daniel is choosing to drive that Audi R8 GT3, given that it's really not been one of the more popular cars so far this season. So certainly giving that car a good show, a good running there, just ahead of Randall Butte in the Pro category. So all the way up in 10th overall is Daniel Weber. So definitely showing the pace that he has there. Now, if you look to the top of your screen, just to point out a couple of things at the top of the screen, just scrolling across will be the positions. Traditionally, in this series, we've had a tower to the left-hand side of the screen, so make sure to direct your attention up there if you're looking for the driver that you're trying to follow, and please be sure to let us know who you're cheering for in the comment section of the broadcast. And once again, we'd like to thank you for joining us here. Looks like the closest battle on track still between Alpel, Yen, and McKenna. Looks like Dan Alpel actually kind of holding up this entire train of cars. It's about 4 cars under a blanket, 3 Lamborghinis roaring, trying to get past that BMW, but a wide platform is that BMW. We always talk about how wide of a butt that thing's got when we're talking about the GT3s. So certainly going to be a difficult pass to make here. Low visibility, I'm sure, from the low seating position in the Lamborghini Huracan Evo GT3. Now, a little bit of a shout out for Rasmus Hornblad. He's done a spectacular job so far in this race, and since joining the series in his racing car. Oh, a little bit of a traffic jam. Bit of a bungee cord there, a spring effect even through the hairpin there, and the pass is actually made now. Keeper McKenna makes up 2 spots there in the hairpin. Let's see if we can see that from another angle here. Yeah, it looks like just a little bit of a pass to the outside by Keeper McKenna, and then Dan Alpel's teammate letting him go by. A flash of lights from Isaac Yen showing a little bit of a frustration as a result of that incident, but of course, Rubbin's racing, and I'd say no harm, no foul there, as Dan Alpel actually looked like he actually tried to make a move back on his teammate, but unable to make that happen, and in any case. Now he is still holding up Isaac Yen. He's not been able to make the pass there as they go through the last complex of corners here, heading back onto the front straightaway, the pit straight here, but Keeper McKenna, since getting past Dan Alpel, his last lap time significantly better than it was before, so already releasing the beast, the Irishman off, oh, and a big moment there for Dan Alpel. Let's see if we can right on board with him, or actually we're on board with Isaac here. See what Dan kind of has going on here in his car. Looks like a little bit of a loose rear end for the BMW there, so unsure about the stability of that car. And apologies, had a little bit of a moment there, having to manage chat as well as the live broadcast, of course. And this train of cars continues to stay stacked up. So that is 4 Lamborghinis, as well as mixed in, I should say, with a BMW and a McLaren. So certainly no rest for the weary if you have sensitive ears, but for those car buffs who love the roaring sound of that that V10 in the rear end of that Lamborghini, I'm a personal big fan of. Of course, a lot of people very much in favor of that lovely engine note coming out of the rear end, so certainly no complaints from most people. I'm sure Dan Alpel will be wanting to hear less and less of it, as you can see a little bit of a mistake there from Isaac Yen. But if you're Dan Alpel, I'm sure wanting to hear less and less of that. Oh, and a big moment there, and he spun! Dan Alpel hard into the wall, and the entire front clip of that car is gone. A huge moment for Dan Alpel. That is absolutely horrible there. Let's see if we can get a replay there. We're actually going to look on board first with Isaac Yen, see what he saw from his perspective. Yeah, it just looks like caught a little bit of the grass on the left-hand side. It did the 171 of Dan Alpel and ended up sending it into the wall. Let's take a look from his perspective here. Well, it looks like it was actually a little bit further back. Let's see if we can get a good replay of that. Yeah, just clipped a little, trying to get too much on the exit. It is so important to get a good run onto the pit straight here, and just went too far off the end of that AstroTurf and was not able to recover the car going back live, and he has retired the car. So very unfortunate for the 171 of Dan Alpel after having such a strong running so far. We'll take a look on board here with Isaac Yen. He has set his sights now on Keeper McKenna up ahead. He had been very much on the rear end of the Irishman's car earlier on before getting Dan Alpel stuck between him and Cooper. So since then, now he's been released to run his ultimate pace, not being quite held up. So you can kind of see how much more these cars have spread out as a result of the absence of the BMW. And even Daniel Weber has made up, looks like, another position, or actually, no, that would be by virtue of Dan Alpel being lost in that accident. But Daniel Weber with, again, an incredible showing from the AM driver in the number 230, already putting pressure now on Kinsep, just ahead of him in the Lamborghini. So he's actually putting some pressure on the pros with how good his pace is, and I'm sure some of these pro drivers are going to have something to say about it when you, or some of the AMs, I should say, are going to have something to say about it. Not too happy when you see your competitor running up there with the pro drivers. Easy to feel like maybe they deserve to be in the pro category, but of course that is up to the stewards to decide. And this whole train of cars staying alongside too. And actually, in the background there, a little bit of a battle for position between Broomfield and another car. I wasn't able to see which car that was just in the background of the shot, but this is just about the closest battle currently on track. We're now looking at Asher Blythe, the number 115 V3 Racing McLaren. He made the swap from the Mercedes to the McLaren last week, or I should say 2 weeks' time ago, at Daytona in the third round over in the United States. Now we've made our way into Europe for the European leg of the season, as Asher clearly kind of got on the bandwagon a little bit there. A lot of different opinions in terms of performance of the cars. Some people were saying the McLaren was actually kind of overpowered in terms of the recent BO2 from iRacing, or the season's balance of performance. But it seems to be relatively balanced out, depending on the drivers that you have in these cars. I mean, racing doesn't get any better than this, really, does it? I mean, these cars are all under a blanket. We're now already down to 16 minutes remaining in the race. And I will take this opportunity to remind those watching that we are running with our sprint feature format this week that debuted last week in Daytona. So we will have a short sprint race. Then the results of the sprint race will be reversed, of course, that not including any DNF finishers. And we see Isaac Yen going a little bit wide there. He's going to have to be careful of that, try not to open the run. But as I was saying, we'll have a sprint race. We'll take a little bit of a break from the broadcast to swap over sessions to the feature race. And of course, the starting grid for that race would be the reverse of the finishing positions for this sprint race. And that is not including DNF finishers. So, for example, Dan Alpel will still have to start at the back end of the pro field at the start of next race. But still a lot of pressure here. Michael Kinsep doing a spectacular job. Looks like actually a little bit of damage to the right-hand side of that Lamborghini. He's doing a great job of keeping pressure on Asher Blythe. Asher maybe even holding him up a little bit here. Asher goes a little bit wide, a moment for Michael, and he's got Daniel Weber right on his tail, so absolutely no rest for the weary here. Michael has got to be on top of his game at all times if he's going to try to make up positions and try not to lose positions to Daniel Weber just behind him, because if you're getting passed by an AM, that means you're not making up any positions in pro category. And you saw there, very close to the back end of the 115 was Michael Kinsep, and he was very close to some contact there. Luckily, that was avoided. We'll take a look now to the front end of the field, and Mike Skeppers is absolutely on an island of his own. Not even a thought of any pressure from behind. So from the pole now, 8.7 seconds up on Andy Gorton, who now holds the second position. If you look at the bottom right hand of your screen, you'll see highlighted in orange is lost positions for any driver. For example, Daniel Vanderlinde currently 6 positions down from his starting spot. Andy Gorton, on the other hand, up 4. And Mike Skeppers, of course, neutral at 0, starting from the pole. Just to get everybody familiarized with the new overlay we got going on here. I want to make sure everybody's on the same page and knows what to have a look for. Now, Owen Blythe, who started on the outside pole, looks like he's actually been having some connection issues, blinking out a little bit here and there, so he's struggling to keep up with the pace of Andy Gorton just ahead. Gorton, on the other hand, another driver who switched from the Mercedes to the McLaren, making that decision, I believe, 2 rounds ago. So he has since been much closer on pace to Mike Skeppers, but still no one able to touch Skeppers in that McLaren GT3. That is just a combination for the century right there, is Mike Skeppers, as he's known as Mike McLaren Skeppers within the team, and for good reason, looking at his pace. Now to look a little bit further down at the battle for the podium in the AM category, David Gowrie currently has it in the Centurion Racing team, teammate to Stephen Broomfield. He has just about a 1.4 second lead to Tom O'Connell a little bit further back, also in a BMW, so the BMWs showing their strength in the AM category so far today, as not even close to them is Daniel Weber. He is off on an island of his own with the pro drivers a good bit further ahead. Now to go over some of the drivers that we've lost so far. Looks like we've lost Stephen Broomfield, Dan Alpel, Joost Bouwmeester. I apologize if I'm butchering that. I do struggle with some of those names. Chris Yardley, John Hallowell, who has had a rough couple of weeks. Anything that could possibly happen to him has absolutely happened to him. And Marvin Sloom, and I'm not sure if he even took the green flag. Thinking about it here, yeah, it looks like he did not take the green flag there, so he is already out of the race. Now to see what other close battles we have here. This battle just continues to be close. It's that continuing to put pressure on Asher Blythe. And you gotta imagine that from the perspective of that Lamborghini driver, he's gonna be getting tired of seeing that McLaren spitting flames ahead of him, be feeling like he's holding him up. Is the Estonian driver there. We'll ride on board with him here, now going to Parabolica, the long, flat left-hand corner, heading into the hairpin. These drivers get a lot of speed, as you see to the bottom right-hand side of the screen. 250 kilometers an hour before slamming on the brakes and downshifting all the way to first, trying to get to the right-hand side, hug that apex as close as they possibly can and slam the gas as fast as possible. And actually, something that might be side by side here. So Daniel Weber actually going to go to the inside. Looks like he got a better run through there, and he'll actually give up that spot. Very cordial of the number 230 to just let that go, not put too much pressure there on Michael Kinsep and risk having some sort of incident that could potentially end up with one or both of them in the wall and out of the race. Now I'm trying to kind of pay attention to chat at the same time that I am worrying about everything else going on. So I thank you for being with us, first of all. It's a pleasure being here up in the broadcast booth with everyone, and of course broadcasting the GT3 League. Those of you who are past viewers from the GT3 League will know just how much fun it's been making that transition from the GTE category to the GT3s, and the racing has never been better here in the Apex Online Racing family. We'll see what other stuff we got going on. This is still the closest battle we have on track, so the drivers starting to spread out a little bit, and just over halfway we are now, so 9.5 minutes remaining in the sprint race. Then we will make our way over to the feature. Let's see if we can do a little bit of a run through the field here. Currently leading your race, Mike Skeppers, with a now 11-second gap to Andy Gorton just behind. Andy Gorton in the 185 Haas My driving McLaren. He is currently in the second position. Then Blinky McGee here, Owen Blythe. Seems like he's certainly having some internet troubles of some sort, and he's in and out constantly. Kiefer McKenna now, we will see here. Kiefer McKenna in the 191. That is another of the V3 Racing Lamborghinis, currently scored in the 4th position. Rasmus Varblon doing a great job. I think this might be his best run of the season so far in the 105 Radix Racing machine. Just behind him, another of the Lamborghinis in the train, Isaac Yen from Fiercely Forward. Looked like he's having some handling issues in that number 112 yellow and black Lamborghini. Then a little bit further back, Asher Blythe still holds the 7th position over Michael Kinsep, and actually is in position to potentially get some of his best points of the season thus far. So a strong running from him that I'm sure he'll be quite excited about come the end of this race if he can hold on to it. Michael Kinsep been putting some pressure on Asher for the last several laps, currently scored in the 8th overall position. Now, for right now, we'll skip Daniel Weber, currently scored 9th overall, 9th in the Pro category. That is Renault Luke from Hyperion Orange. And then finally, Silver Tam in the other of the Radix Racing entries, the number 188. He is currently scored 10th in the Pro category. And then we go to our AM, Daniel Weber, right in the midst of his Pro battle, number 230 Cavor Motorsport Audi. He is the leader in the AM category. A little bit further back, David Gowrie currently under pressure now from Tom O'Connell. O'Connell continuing to get closer and closer there. We'll actually try to keep an eye on this battle a little bit here, but the Centurion Racing turquoise, blue, and black BMW currently under pressure from the blue and black BRT machine. Then a little bit further back down the field, Tano Kasalu. That is the Llamas Racing number 251. Strong showing from him, currently in the 4th position in our AM category. Rulian Gant currently scored in the 5th position in AM, but given that he is a reserve driver, hasn't been added to the overlay. So if you do see any drivers with just a black background or that isn't scored, they are just some of our reserve drivers that we haven't added in, and I'll try to fix that best I can during our break. Then scored in the 5th position, Davey Van Abevel with a strong showing. VDA Racing number 281 Audi, currently in the 5th position. Or sorry, 6th in AM. Then Andres Ansu, currently in 6th position. And then everyone's favorite snowflake, that is Stefan Kamke in the V3 Racing machine, currently actually under pressure from Thomas and Tot, trying to make a little bit of a recovery here with some significant damage to the front and rear of that car. Now going to take a little bit of a look up further, see how David Gowrie is holding on to his position. Now coming up on 3/4 of the way through our sprint race, Mike Skeppers with absolutely no pressure. Neither is there pressure for Daniel Weber, the German out in front of the AM category. And looks like Michael Kinsep has made a mistake of some sort. Not sure what happened there. Let's take a look here. Sounds like maybe had a little bit of contact there from behind. Oh, and just took a little bit too much of that exit curb. Slammed hard into the wall. And that is going to be a hard into the race for Michael Kinsep from Llamas Racing. That is really an unfortunate way to end it there. And actually, a little bit earlier, we had lost Daniel Vanderlip. Actually missed this when I was going through the field. Let's take a look at a replay here. And whoa, way too hard hitting that curb to the inside. That big red sausage curb is not your friend, especially not in that Lamborghini Evo. And facing the wrong way there, going to have to be careful turning back around, trying to rejoin here. And now Kinsep has completely lost the hood of that car, as well as most of the front clip. So going to really struggle to limp that car around. Has actually put himself between 3rd and 4th in the AM category. That's Tom O'Connell and Tanel Kasasalu. He has definitely not the way he wanted to end his race for sure. Now to look back at what that battle was, Asher Blythe is now under pressure from Daniel Weber, who hasn't been able to get past him. And of course, Michael Kinsep was between those two drivers a little bit earlier on, but currently scored in the 7th position. Asher Blythe is, and then Renault Luke is that number 111 Hyperion Racing Orange BMW, kind of just having a quiet race, but a really solid result for him. Started a little bit further back in the pack, but all the way up into the 8th position is the Estonian driver, currently representing really the very few BMWs we have out on track, particularly in the pro category. Of course, we lost Dan Alpel a little bit earlier in the race in just about this area of the track. But we'll see what other close battles we have here as we approach 3 minutes remaining in the race, as this is actually our closest battle on track. Daniel Weber still trying to stay ahead of Brayden Luke behind. Both Brayden Luke and Asher Blythe up 5 positions each from their original starting spots, and about a full second between all 3 of those cars. So all 3 of those cars right under a blanket, but you can see the acceleration, the far superior acceleration of those McLarens. Asher just pulls away so well coming out of the corners, and then of course closing up with the slipstream is that Audi. A little bit better on the brakes, I would even say. As you can see, Asher on for, I believe, his best result of the season. If we look a little bit further up in the field, Isaac Yen not yet able to make any sort of charge on Varblan just ahead of him, but has since fallen back. So a really strong showing from the number 105, certainly worth being proud of in this feature race. In the Radix Racing number 105. We talked about him a little bit. Let's see if there's anybody else we haven't really talked much about so far. Let's talk about Andy Gorton a little bit here, as he actually is under a little bit of pressure from Owen Blythe, if you could ever see him. Definitely having a hard time seeing Owen as he blinks in and out pretty much constantly right at the moment. But he is... I mean, that's going to be a tough pass to make, especially for Andy, because how are you supposed to defend against something you can't see? And certainly at risk of an incident perhaps coming together if netcode comes into factor here. Hopefully not, as we approach a minute and a half remaining in the session, so I believe our leader, Mike Skepper, should take the white flag rather shortly, as he is just not even in the same zip code as his competitors, already well 2, 3, 4 corners ahead of the nearest driver. So he goes into the intersection here, and Andy and Owen are only just coming off of the hairpin. So certainly a dominating performance as we've come to expect from Mike. 14 seconds the gap between himself and second place Andy Gorton, and another huge gap in the AM category between Daniel Weber, who's still putting pressure on Asher Blythe. If I'm Asher, I just let him go. Absolutely, I think the smart call there is just let him go and not worry about getting wrecked before the end of this thing. 44 seconds remaining, and I believe Mike Skepper is now coming through to take what will be our white flag lap. He comes across the line. White flag is out. You can see waving there on the flag stand. And the question is Owen Blythe going to be able to make any sort of move on Andy Gorton, given that he can't see him? That's going to be interesting to take a look at. You can see Owen continuing to have connection issues, blinking in and out and in and out and in and out. Kiefer McKenna quietly remaining in the 4th position. A strong point stay from him, nearly winning the feature race 2 weeks ago in Daytona. Just missed it on the last lap from his teammate, Mike Skeppers, and we're going to see that that battle continue today, though worth noting, significantly fewer drivers in today's race, only 26 entries today as compared to the nearly 40 that we had in Daytona. So definitely keep an eye on that, because when we reverse these grids for the next race and put the fastest guys like Andy Gorton and Mike Skeppers in the back, they're not going to be quite as far back as they were last week in Daytona. Isaac Yen continues to kind of just run his own race. The question, I think, is going to be, everybody's kind of spread out here. Everybody's kind of content with their positions, it seems, but Owen Blythe still very close to Andy Gorton. Will he be able to make any sort of move, or is he just going to stay to himself? As we see, Mike Skepper is going to come across the line here and take the checkered flag for yet another win in the Apex Online Racing GT3 GT3 League Season 1. The dominance continues from Skeppers of the V3 Racing McLaren. Now Andy Gorton going to come out of the final corner, and he is going to take his checkered flag, and not too far behind was Owen Blythe, if you can believe it, kind of phasing in and out of existence there. Now for the AM drivers, Daniel Weber now comes across the lines with a win in the AM category. So he holds on to 8 overall here. David Gowrie still able to hold the position on Tom O'Connell, but that was a great race between the two of them, very close together. The two BMWs from Centurion Racing and BRT. So, without further ado, that will conclude our sprint race. And for those of you potentially just joining us or who didn't know quite yet, this is a new format that we're trying out a few rounds this season, a sprint and feature format. So that was our 20-minute sprint race. Now we're going to head into our feature race after everybody comes across the line here, and we'll take a look at our final finishing positions before we take a little bit of a break from the broadcast and head over to the next session. Let's see if iRacing will let us go ahead and take a look. Oh, and sending off the car in spectacular fashion. To end this race, let's take a look if we can grab our race results. Here we go. So let's take a look at the top several drivers in AM and Pro. Mike Skeppers takes home yet another dominant win by 15.5 seconds over Andy Gorton. Owen Blythe takes home the podium position, the final podium position in our Pro category. He comes home P3. Then another of the V3 Racing cars, that's Kiefer McKenna. Rasmus Barblon from Radix Racing having a great showing here in the 5th position. Asher Blythe comes home in 6th. There, his best finish, I believe, of the season so far. Then Rano, Luke, and Silver Tam will round out the top 8 in our pros. Isaac Yen seems to have maybe had some sort of an issue at the last second. I didn't quite see what happened to him, but showing here on the results that he's all the way down in the 13th position there, just ahead of Arlene Gand, who was scored in the top 10 in Pro. Then in our AM category, it was Daniel Weber with a dominant win in the 230 from Cabor Motorsport. Then David Gowrie and Tom O'Connell with a great race between the two of them, those two BMWs. Then Tanel Kazasalu in the 251, that's from Lamas Racing. He takes home just one spot away from a podium position. Then Davey Van Abel, Andres Ansu. And we'll take a little bit further down here. Stefan Komke coming home in the 19th overall position, followed by Daniel van der Linde and Joost Boymeister, who had a very, very rough start to the race. But that's actually going to do it for our sprint race. We ask that you stay with us for just a few minutes' time as we go ahead and take a break from the broadcast here and move into our next session for our feature race, where we will see some more action here from the Hockenheim ring in Germany. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, and thank you for sticking with us in our little transition phase from our sprint to our feature race. Just to remind you, for those who might be joining us, we are currently at the Hockenheim Ring in Germany, home to the German Grand Prix in Formula 1. My name is Brayden Hill, and now joining me in the commentary booth is Niclas Domino, notorious slacker who was not with us earlier on. Nick, how you doing?
Hey, yeah, I'm great. Notorious slacker. Oh, come on, I got to get my car fixed. So I'm excited to see how this kind of race is gonna unfold. I just had a little bit of an eye on the first race, so interested to see if these drivers can actually overtake on this track.
Absolutely, and we're actually going to take a look and go through our field here. So let's pull up the grid on my end here. All right.
Should be up.
So, going to be starting on the pole, Thomas Santat, who did not have a good race last in the feature race, or the sprint race, I should say. Had some struggles towards the beginning of that race. Michael Kinsep, who was having a strong race until he unfortunately ended up in the wall after a mistake from him. Isaac Yen had some last-minute troubles that lost him a strong finishing position. Asher Blythe and Rhino Luke going to be side-by-side. Rasmus Verblond, Kiefer McKenna, Owen Blythe, Andy Gorton, and then our winner, Mike Skeppers. Then the first of our DNF finishers is going to be Stephen Broomfield. Now the pace car going to pull off to the right-hand side to the safety of the pit lane. Thomas Santat has control of the field and will go already to the loud pedal is that BMW. He will clear himself single file for the top two positions, make that top three with Isaac Yen as well, nearly 3 wide heading into turn 1 there. A big power move to the outside from Asher Blythe, and down to the inside now goes, that was Owen Blythe. Now starting off for our AMs, Daniel Vanderlinde, the Canadian number 294, going to have the pole there alongside Stephen Broomfield. So those two going to have the front row secured here. Already single file there. Now towards the front of the field, already a move for second position. Isaac Yen going to go to the inside. He was not able to make the pass on Kinsep in the sprint race. Kinsep going to defend the inside line there. Hard on the throttle already, and actually going to end up having a little bit of a sideways moment there. But holds on to it. Going to be side by side, going to the kink here to the right hand side, and then getting ready. Oh, nearly contact there between the two Lamborghinis fighting for the second position. 3 Lamborghinis over a blanket for positions 2 through 4. Now Mike Skeppers on board here. A huge move to the inside of John Hallowell there. A big cluster there. And a little bit of a moment off track here, side by side with John Hallowell. So that's 2 V3 Racing McLarens. And Mike, I'm sure, going to be wanting to get through the field as quick as possible, especially to try to get past Andy Gorton. So that was very close there. Whole bunch of cars under a blanket, bunch of really fast cars that we're going to see coming to the front here. The question is whether or not this track is going to be conducive to any sort of overtaking as they head through the last complex of corners back onto the pit straight. Pretty wild start to the race. Looks like Owen Blythe going to be having the advantage of our top 3 finishers in our sprint race. Now looking at Andy Gorton, the number 185. Going to be under pressure actually from John Hallowell just behind, who's had a rough couple of weeks the last few weeks, so certainly hoping for him to have a good race today. Oh, and a late send to the inside by Mike Skeppers. Doesn't quite get the nose in there, but certainly showing his intent to his teammate just ahead.
Yeah, and this is going to be interesting. Skeppers have been running away with this championship, and this track is notoriously difficult to overtake on. So he really needs to now show that he can do other than just be a front runner, as we just see a move on the inside. That was Alpol going on the inside of Rasmus into the hairpin. Gordon also, this is really Gordon's chance to try and see if he can get some points, as the guys in front are battling and actually making it harder on you to be able to actually get by them there at the end. And let's just see at our AMs where Van der Linde has just taken the lead by storm and has gotten away from the rest of the pack. But actually, Mr. Kamke has fallen all the way back to the end of the line, and let's just see what happened to him here. Oh, just a little bit
curb.
too much curb, and just not really respecting the track. Oh, he will be so angry with that, but you know, he's a fake snowflake, so he will get over it.
You would think he would be used to driving in slick conditions, given his snowflake nature, but doesn't seem to be the case. As we see Steven Broomfield having to serve a drive-through for penalty from the stewards. That was from 2 weeks ago in Daytona, so he will have to crawl down that long straightaways. I think we've had a crash for Renault Luke.
Just need to see there's a little bit Thomas, Sergio, and Michael. Just a little bit of touch.
Oh, and that was a hard hit though from the front end of the Lamborghini. That was that might have been Rasmus Verblan who made contact with the rear end of Michael Consett. That's going to be what's going to kill him for sure. And actually, I think in the background there, that was Andy Gordon. Yep, so he was trying to go to the outside to get around that incident. Ended up losing a ton of track position, especially to his nearest competitors here.
Oh, Luke just getting murdered there, just getting hit at the rear. Who was that?
I think that was Blythe. I think that was either Blythe or Hallowell.
Yeah, it might be. Let's see if we can see it from here. It's the car number 103. Yeah, that is Hallowell.
It's Hallowell, yep. Just a little bit too deep there on the brakes.
Just missing his braking point and misjudging the distance there. But Isaac Jan is really getting away here. It's interesting that we have two Lamborghinis in front of each field at the moment, and they're just running with it. Asher Bly, let's see if he can hold it there. He has had a tendency to maybe make a couple of stupid mistakes and crash and lose some positions there. So see if he can keep his mind cool, especially with his brother getting ever closer.
Absolutely. I think Owen has the best pace of the field right at the moment, though still in traffic, so we haven't been able to see what his car can really do. But if you look at the background of the shot there, the two V3 Racing McLarens, interestingly of note, is that Hallowell is still... Oh no, they did swap positions. So they've recently swapped positions. That is Skeppers, the front of the two McLarens there. So Mike, the Beast, has been let loose here. The question is whether or not his pace is going to be good enough to catch up to the front of the field. If I'm Isaac Yen, I'm running for my life as fast as possible, as we see a great battle here for position in the AM category. There's David Gowrie, who finished second in the sprint race a little bit earlier after a long battle with the
almost missing
O'Connor. Yeah, just about missed the corner, but it gets away from that with that a little bit here. But if you look at the background of the shot there, you will notice a very bright pink Audi, and that's going to be Gowrie off to the left-hand side of the track. A big mistake from him, but as I was trying to note, Daniel Weber, this is the person that they're going to be looking out for, because he had a massive advantage. And it looks like the 251 maybe just caught him off guard with how much the 251 slowed down and he had to avoid.
I think he just had too much speed in there. I think he didn't respect, losing a little bit of downforce. These cars do lose downforce, not as much as a Formula car would, but you can still feel the dirty air and the wash off. So I think that might have been, but Weber here's definitely the guy that to be looking out for, as Sebas has actually just passed Albol into the hairpin and is getting up there slowly, but
cue the Jaws music.
Yeah, and we saw this at Daytona, where he actually just on the last lap second to last lap actually got the position and got the win there. So let's see if he can do it a little bit before here. But for Isaac, as you talked about before, you would want these drivers to keep him up just a little bit more than they are at the moment.
I think that's the big difference in this championship, though. Sorry to interrupt you, Nick, but The big difference in this championship, you look at somebody like Skeppers, who obviously is incredibly dominant, but you compare even with this new sprint and feature format, he's incredibly patient coming through this field. Doesn't have any damage on his car. You know, we saw a little bit of impatience end up biting Andy Gorton, despite being in the lead of those really fast cars coming through the field in Daytona, ended up getting taken out just because of his impatience and putting the car in the wrong spot at the wrong time, ended up getting taken out. But then you compare that to Mike. He doesn't seem to really be in any sort of rush to get through this field. 41 minutes, 20 seconds remaining in the race, and he just is riding along. It's like he doesn't even have to worry about it, as we see a pass for position here. Daniel Weber puts it to the inside. Oh, that was wide. A little bit of a tough move, a little argy-bargy there for the position, but I mean, made it work, and thankfully didn't have any sort of a wreck there. But Skeppers just showing the patience and maturity of a champion that you would expect from him, and from what you really need to be good in that car is patience in that McLaren. Because if you're not patient, if you try to muscle it around and not let the car come to you, you're going to end up in a wall.
Yeah, it's a diva. It definitely is a diva, and they have been struggling a little bit. Mike, actually, I was talking with him a bit earlier in the weekend, and he was actually convinced that the McLaren was only the third fastest car today. He was like, the Lambo and Mercedes are definitely the strongest around here. So he was a little bit nervous about the race, especially this particular race, because the McLaren was really good in clean air, but as soon as somebody else were in front, he could just feel like it's a little bit touchy. And when it gets, when the tires are getting more worn, then he also starts to lose a little bit of confidence in it. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's getting closer and closer, and Kiefer is definitely not a guy who will just let him by. So interesting to see if he's gonna fight everything he can to hold this position.
Absolutely, and I was talking to Kiefer in the paddock after last week's race, and he was so frustrated with himself after losing that race, the feature race, on the last lap to his teammate, who's now just behind him, Mike Skeppers, and it really just took a lot of confidence away from him in this car. That he went from feeling like a superhero to he went from a hero to a zero. It felt like, and he definitely has lost a lot of his confidence, he said, in the car since that incident. As we see Michael Concept coming in for a pit stop here. As we see Kiefer got a little bit held up here on the exit.
Oh,
that's going to be interesting.
That's a big one.
That was a lick, and that's going to be the end of the race for Michael Concept. Let's see if we could go on board with him, because it almost looks like he kind of just let the car go.
Oh no, that's definitely contact. That's
I think we need to go back a little bit further. That almost looked like Thomas either didn't see him coming or just forced him down. We'll see if we can go a little bit further back. See what the context was. Maybe a little further?
Yeah, let's see here.
I mean, it's very clear that Michael is to the inside for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already inside there, and Thomas just starts turning left.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a huge... Oh, Hallwell's off.
Have we lost Hallowell again? Oh, no!
Oh, curb a little bit.
Oh, but he caught it! Good lad.
What a save. But he lost 2 positions there, and definitely, the most important one, he lost one to one Mr. Andy Gordon.
Yeah, and that's going to put Gorton yet another position up to them, but now looks like Gorton going to try to go to the inside there, but Isaac Yen's still with a 5-second lead.
The Bly brothers have also swapped around. Owen has conquered his brother there.
Oh, well, I'm sure they're in chat, and I'm sure Owen's told them to bugger off.
Oh yeah. Well, that right there is definitely the more broadcastable version of it.
Yes, I'm sure. But this battle continues between Skeppers and McKenna. I'm sure Kiefer not going to be very interested in letting him go.
Another crasher.
Oh, and this is I think this was for a podium position in the M category. So what's happened here?
I think so as well.
Looks like the
Let's see. I
251
think.
goes to the outside. I think we might have to look at this one from the outside of the car.
Yeah, here. It's definitely the 251. He's on the outside defending from 214.
He just
And
gave,
then just
he gave
not
more than enough
restricting.
for him. The Audi just went straight. Didn't seem to
Yeah.
care.
But both of them still in the race, but they've definitely lost a lot of great points positions there.
Absolutely.
As
and
a
this battle
Skippers,
continues.
he's not really, Bly McKenna is definitely gonna fight that one all the way. He's not gonna let him by.
Absolutely, and I'm sure
If
Mike's
Mike
got
is
to be
getting by
saving
here,
fuel as well at this point.
yeah, there might be. Do you think they need to pit? They did last time.
They did last week. I think they will be able to make a pit. They will have to make a pit stop, but not for full fuel.
No, definitely not. But half a tank or so. That's also a thing that Mike was talking about. He definitely don't take a full tank because it will just be you'll be too slow. The difference between half a tank and a full tank is about 0.3 per lap. So that's also a different thing you can take into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you're doing this. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see Mike doing his best Lando Norris impression there, pushing those track limits absolutely as far as they will let him push. And yeah, you can see just how difficult it is to overtake here because as much as I think that Mike is trying to save fuel, he's made it pretty clear that he intends to pass Kiefer. And has made a few moves but hasn't been able to make any of them stick. So a tough track to make any passes on here, but worth noting, it is now V3 Racing in second, third, and fourth. Second, third, fourth, and fifth, I should say. So once again, just a strong showing for the V3 Racing group. Daniel van der Linde, the Canadian, continuing to have a strong showing. We talked about him a little bit in Daytona, having a pretty strong race until an incident, I believe, ended up biting him. Davy Van den Abbevel, I should say, from VDA Racing, still trying to hold on here to the second position on the podium for... Ooh, that was very close. But two Audis going at it for second place in the AM category. Daniel Weber, I have to imagine, is going to have this position, whether Abbevel wants him to or not. That pink Cabor Motorsport car is just way too quick. As he goes around the outside here, gonna go to the inside here in the hairpin and makes that a rather clean and easy pass there. And there's the Centurion Racing car just behind that has made a good recovery after having a little bit of an off-track excursion. David Gowrie going from doing his best rallycross impression to now just outside a podium position once again in the AM category. So a great points day thus far for the 208 of Centurion Racing. And now...
Yeah, he was just trying to test out the rallycross version of Hockenheim.
Yeah, I think he was trying to see the limits of those slick Continental tires.
Oh, definitely. But it's good to see that he can get up here. But yeah, that pink out is definitely... Weber's just, he is the shepherds of the AM class for this season. None of the others have been able to really touch him, but Van der Linde is definitely he's gonna be a tough one to catch for him at this point in the race.
Absolutely, but I think if anybody has the speed to do it, it's Weber.
Yeah. Ooh, Shivers is going on the inside here. I think he got Kiefer here.
It's hard to beat the acceleration of that McLaren, but Kiefer definitely thought about a move there for a second.
Yeah.
Did he go for the crossover here, perhaps? Yeah, not quite able to do it. The acceleration of that McLaren is just absolutely superior to any other car in the class. So now looking back at Weber, the Hound has been released both in the form of Mike Skeppers and in Daniel Weber. You can see in the background of your screen Andy Gorton being held up currently by another of the V3 Racing drivers, Stan Alpel, who's had a little bit of a tough day thus far and still mired back at about the back half of the top 10. So he is still holding off Andy Gorton for what is the 7th position in class. Just behind them, John Hallowell, who we saw have a little bit of an issue, but credit to Asher Blight, still hanging on to the 3rd position, still looking at a podium currently, if he can stay ahead of Skeppers, but looks like about a second the gap between the 196 and the 115. So that is going to be interesting. 2 of those McLarens, you can see them just at the end of that shot there. Andy Gorton now going to make the move to the inside of Dan Alpel, so that move is done and over with. At least you hope so if you are Gorton, and you can see the acceleration of that McLaren showing off there. Just didn't have much to do. Alpel didn't have much to do, but it's going to use the slipstream, try to go to the left-hand side and make a move around the outside. You can hear the very different engine notes between the 2 cars, but Gorton going to have the preferred line going into the hairpin here. Will Alpel be able to do anything about it? No, not quite. So I think that's going to be just about the last chance that Alpel would have had to take that position. So he's trying to make a move to the inside here, maybe whip it around the outside. Not quite able to do it. I think Andy Gorton has that position. Ooh, deep in the braking zone, John Hallowell. Man, that was deep in and almost deep enough to make contact with the back end of Gorton, but that is going to be a move done there. The question then is going to be, is Silver Tam going to be able to make, or sorry, that's not Tam, that is, who's just behind Alpel? That is Verblon, that is Verblon, who is still behind Alpel, who had a really strong showing, a P5 in our sprint race earlier on. So Dan Alpel continuing to give us some action on track.
And Helicrash was close to live up to his name there.
Yeah, just about, wasn't he?
I think he got, you know, spooked a little bit by himself by how late he actually was braking.
Look at how hard
I think he was.
that curb.
Oh, that's quite a hit. Oh, as our leader has been off the track in the AM class.
Oh yeah, looks like he just judging by the marks to the outside there, maybe just overdrove it a little bit, but a good save, a good recovery there, because that could have been a lot worse for Daniel Van. We saw almost an identical incident with Dan Alpel that ended up taking him out in the sprint race.
But if you listen to him, listen how he actually saves it by being calm in the moment. You know, listen to the throttle. And then he's just slowly and getting off onto the throttle when he gets back on the track. Shepherds has been off.
Uh-oh.
What has happened here? He is just a
track
little bit
extending.
off there. Yeah, track extending. But I think he went for a move there. Let's just take that back a little bit further. No,
I think he had already had the move made on Asher Blight. I think Asher just let him go.
Yeah. And then he just, you know, braked a little bit too late and decided to go on the outside of the Verstappen, because otherwise you can really damage the cars if you hit those big curbs, such as curbs there.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see how good of a job Asher is going to be able to do holding off Kiefer for what will be the 4th and 5th positions here. I'm sure Asher going to want to minimize the number of positions he ends up losing here to the end of the race, trying to get the best, what will be his career best race in the Apex Online Racing family of leagues here. Still ahead of Kiefer, but it looks like Kiefer has a little bit better ultimate pace in that 191 Lamborghini.
Yeah, and Asher has been... He's a driver that tends to push a little bit too much, and that has been biting him in the rear exhaust this season. And I think he just needs to get one race under his belt where he's just, you know, no problems, points, and he's just actually almost outbraking himself there. As we actually have a Broomfield who has had a horrendous race. Oh, just a little bit too much curb. Oh, what a save.
And that's just got to show how tough of a track this is. I mean, just barely touching that curb to the outside and lost all grip. Ended up drifting nearly into one of our competitors for the podium in the AM category. Thankfully, didn't have any issue there, but already going back to the inside of the Audi just ahead. Kiefer McKenna actually has not been able to make any progress towards trying to overtake Asher Blythe. That is interesting to note because typically we do see a lot more pace out of the Lamborghini there than out of Asher. So really good job by Asher and full credit to him for having his strongest race of the season thus far. And we talk a lot about Asher having some incidents on track, particularly last week in Daytona, as well as in our first round when he was still in the Mercedes. But full credit to him. He's new to iRacing, new to the V3 Racing team, but he's still doing a spectacular job of learning, and his learning curve certainly shows just how committed he is to wanting to get better week in and week out. And now that's showing on the track with currently a 4th place run, well up in the top 5 positions, with now under a half hour, approaching 25 minutes remaining in our feature race today.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, he's new to iRacing. We have to keep that in mind. He is a untapped potential. I think he could really be fast, but he just needs to get out of his own way. That is Bly's biggest issue, and I think Kiefer will be pushing to get past him. But I think Asher just needs to make some small goals and say, all right, this is the goal for today, but let's see if we can get something out of it. Let's see. Let's go back and look at the battle for the AM lead here. Actually, as Weber's getting closer and closer to Vanderland, but that's also because he got that. He got off track there for a bit, so he definitely lost a lot of time there. Going further down, we have Abelin in P3 and Tom O'Connell in P4 for the Brit racing team here in the BMW. And this is it's a really pretty car, but it's quite huge, this BMW, actually, when you see it, especially from the point of view of the McLarens or the Audi, as we see Broomfield still trying to fight his way back out of the AM class. And let's see if he can get up there, as Asher and Kiefer is definitely fighting here, and see Kiefer has been off track as well as Asher, and let's see if they can fight it without having any carbon fiber between them and tears ending to just have that liquid on track. And it just looks like Asher's defending well here. Let's see, he went off track. Let's see what that was.
I have to imagine just some track extending. Yeah, a little bit of unintentional track extending there.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see, going a little bit further, and let's just see what, because I think Kiefer just, it's just him outbraking himself, actually, and almost making that a overtaking opportunity for Kiefer.
Yeah, Asher's definitely going to want to try to take a deep breath, regather himself a little bit here, because he's certainly feeling the pressure from the Irishman behind him. So got to be mindful of that. Keep the eyes out the windshield and not the mirror is going to be the goal for that number 115 car. Now, Kiefer continues to be right up the rear tailpipes of Asher there, and that is our closest battle on track for the moment. You can see the acceleration of the McLaren just pulling Asher away from Kiefer at the beginning of the straight, but deep into the slipstream is Kiefer. McKenna now in the 6th gear, going to go to the right-hand side, try to make a move into the braking zone. Will it be enough, or will Asher be able to make a crossover move? No, Asher will not. So that is the pass made for 4th and 5th position, and flashing lights from Asher, and I've got to imagine that's kind of him just saying hello.
Yeah, or just being, a prick. But he didn't look to be really fighting that too much, as we actually have some of our first guys pitting, as well as a Gory being a little bit track extending here. Now let's see what happened here. Just getting overtaken, actually. Oh, that was the wrong one. That was what we just saw before. Oh, that's the David Gory getting really off track there. Let's see if we can get that a little bit further out. Just see, that's such a curb at the exit there. It's just takes the rear wheels and then just spin
almost
the car
an
around.
identical incident to his teammate Stephen Broomfield. So you have to imagine they're running a similar setup, if not the same. So it makes sense they would both have a similar sensitivity to that particular area of the track. Now the question is Asher going to be able to hold on to that 5th position? Some pressure being put on him from Silver Tan behind from Radix Racing, the 188. So those two Radix cars have swapped spots in terms of pace. It was his teammate Varblan who had the ultimate pace earlier in the race, and actually Asher going to look to make a move on Kiefer here. It looks like he was certainly making Keith think about it, and had to go to the outside of the track there. Asher, I think, is really struggling in that hairpin especially. We've seen him go wide in that corner several times, but now he's got a rabbit to chase, and the pace is picked back up, so he is going to continue to put the pressure on Kiefer McKenna here. And 20 minutes remaining for this battle to sort itself out between the two V3 Racing teammates. I think the Lamborghini with a little bit better pace going back and forth, and looks like we've lost, or no, he's coming into the pit lane. So that is Daniel Vanderlinde, our leader in the AM category, into the pit lane, making his pit stop. So I believe Daniel Weber will inherit the lead by virtue of that pit stop, and we'll see some of our leaders start to come in to the pits in just a few laps' time. And some of these cars are going to be a little bit more fuel efficient than others, so that's worth keeping in mind when we're considering what the pit fuel strategy is going to be. Let's see if we can find Mike Skeppers on track, see where he is at. And now, what I wanted to see here is how close he is to Owen Blythe. 2 seconds the gap, which means that neither Mike nor Owen have been able to fuel save at all on the straights here, because neither of them are within slipstream distance of any cars around them. So they're going to be consuming a little bit more fuel, and therefore have to take more fuel on the pit stop and have a little bit more time in the pit lane than some of their competitors around them. So we'll see whether or not that is going to be a detriment to them. You can see Isaac Yen up in the top corner of your screen, now within striking distance from Owen Blythe and Mike Skeppers. And Owen, thankfully, seems to have sorted out that connection problem he was having in the sprint race, so he's no longer one with the Shadow Realm.
Yeah, and we all thank him for it. As I'm just trying. Yeah, that was there. Oh, as this is really hindered everything. Oh, you're definitely making some noise there at the background. No, we can hear you, mate. We can hear you. As actually, Skippers is getting closer and closer with 1.6 seconds gap here, and he's really reeling in the two leaders at the moment. As Owen didn't seem to be really fast in that last lap. Let's see if we can find out what they actually posted last lap time. So Blythe with a 38 and Shivers with a 37. So quite a bit there, almost half a second between those two on their last lap. So that was has lost quite a lot of time there, as Thomas Santer has now pitted. He is boxing.
Yep, that was
all the way up
sitter.
At the
So all the way up at the front end of the pit lane for Santer, who is scored currently in the 13th position. He was in 12th on track prior to hitting the pit lane. We look now at Daniel Weber, who is leading the AM category, but has not yet made his pit stop. Ooh, a little bit of contact there between.
Ooh,
I think that may have been a little bit of malice, perhaps, in that move there, or perhaps just them kind of getting stuck together there. I know that battle had been going on for several laps, and looks like a little bit of contact right there. Dan going a little bit wide, and he looks like he just keeps going wide to the left-hand side and gets hooked there by the 105, and they both end up heading into the wall. And that ends up being the end of that battle for Dan, isn't it?
Let's see if we can find a seat here. So
yeah, Dan just didn't get close to that apex. It seemed that he was given plenty of room, but just kept going to that left-hand
and
side. At this point, he has no more control of the car.
No, but for me, it's without breaking any judgment, Dan could have left him
quite a bit more. I think, yeah.
Yeah, he could. Yeah.
Yeah, we have the
M class.
Yep, looks
we
like
have the M class. And Alpha is definitely still going here, so good on him being out there. But while you were making a lot of noise in the background, Skippers is getting closer and closer to Owen, and has reeled him in quite fast with again half a second on the last lap, and he's the only one in the 37s out there.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's going to be interesting as they come into the pit lane probably within the next lap or two, is whether or not Mike is going to have to pass Owen on track or if he'll be able to do it in the pit lane. They both now dive to the right-hand side to the safety of that pit lane, who will be able to push it as hard as possible, getting in there, and oh, that was close. Maybe a little bit of a moment between the two of them, and that is all three of our leaders. You can see the yellow number 112 from Fiercely Forward. That is Isaac Yen, your current leader. Then the two V3 racing cars. That is Owen Blythe in the white Lamborghini, and then the black McLaren of Mike Skeppers pitting right next to each other as Isaac Yen is in his pit stall. The question is going to be who will be smartest on fuel, who's going to be able to get in and out at a decent time. And I think actually you just saw on the right-hand side of your screen, I think Asher Blythe might have overshot his pit stall, or maybe he did actually make it. But this is interesting. Now, this is what I wanted to see, because Mike Tippers has not been able to pass Owen Blythe on pit lane. In fact, Owen had a shorter pit stop there than Mike did. But this is going to be interesting because that means that they are going to have to battle for that position unless Owen just lets him by. This is going to make it much harder for Mike to go and catch Isaac Yen ahead. I think Owen has faster pace than Isaac as well, so they'll kind of catch him together. However, in terms of that battle for the overall win, that's going to be interesting because I'm sure Owen's going to want to be able to take honors home here, as Andy Gorton has caught all the way up to Asher Blythe and is going to be putting pressure on him. So a great recovery from Andy after having a little bit of an off earlier on, avoiding an incident between a couple of Lamborghinis, and he you can see just how mature and methodical he is, getting back onto the throttle, coming out of the hairpin where we know Asher has been struggling most of this race. Asher definitely going to have to drive out that windshield, not out the mirror, try to be as mature, as methodical as he can, and try to withstand the pressure that he's got coming from behind.
Mature. Yes, we just saw Silver there getting over the bumps. And yeah, that was me making fun of Asher.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's just Asher. But Gordon really sharing his pace here, and Asher is really feeling the pressure of being, fighting with the Mr. Gordon there. But yeah, to just.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to your point with the guys up here. With only 13 minutes left, both Owen and Mike, they really need to start piling on the pressure, because one thing is to catch the guy, another thing is to overtake him. And Isaac has been driving a really, really great race here. He has 3 seconds in hand, and if he can defend the last couple of laps, this could get really, really close. So they need to really pile on the pressure now, as Gordon has just passed Asher.
Oh, and Silver Tam going to try to send it in the inside.
Oh, no! There's a contact.
Oh, you could just see the attitude of the McLaren. You could see him start turning in already, and you knew there was going to be contact there. Luckily, it doesn't look like any damage to either of those cars. We see John Hallowell, who's had a little bit of a rough day, or a rough season even, I should say, but I'm sure Silver not going to be particularly happy about that move from Azure. I'll ask your thoughts on that incident there, Nick.
Well, let's just take a little bit closer look on it here, and if we go cockpit view, we can see at this point, yeah, he's looking at the inside, but Azure's not looking behind. He's looking at Gordon, and that's the risk that you're taking when you're going for that inside move when two others are battling as they are. So for me, that's a racing incident, and just, Silva being a little bit too overeager, as we see some setters going off, and I think Andreas have a little bit of the same. Oh, just going way out onto the drag strip right there, and back onto the track in that beautiful, beautiful sounding Mercedes.
Someone's got some bias.
It's not biased.
Is this the second pit stop for Thomas? We've already seen Thomas came in. He was one of the first pit callers, and this is the second time in for the number 1
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
So that is very interesting.
Might be calling it a day. I don't know. Or is this a drive-through? It looks like a drive-through. It is a drive-through. He might have gotten a drive-through for exceeding the track limits. There is a certain amount of access that you're allowed to get, and for those who are not familiar with iRacing or the system, every time you go off track or have a contact, you get an X, and he's just getting way off track again. Contact with another car gives you 4 X's. Contact, where it's slight contact, can give you 2 X's if you spin 2 X's. And just getting off track as he were on the last lap out of the hairpin will give him 1x. Going off track, 1x. These type of things will accumulate, and when you get, I think it's 15 X's, you will get a drive-through penalty from the game itself. As he's really struggling with
there, yeah.
the car. Yeah. But look at who's actually leading the AM class already. Weber is
really has
up
that
here.
well in hand, doesn't he?
Yeah, with the 3-second now, 3-second lead. But again, as we just talked about, if he gets too many X's, that could be a drive-through. So he needs to keep that car clean. It is definitely a striking car, that one. I just want your opinion on this. That color and then those wheel rims.
I quite like the livery, not quite as much of a fan of the wheel rims. But I think that livery is quite nice. I do enjoy the use of the spec map, as well as some nice bright pink colors that we don't get to see too often out on the racetrack.
It definitely stands out. You can't fault it for that. But yeah, those wheel rims get either brushed steel or some dark rims on that car right there.
Yeah,
that would be
absolutely. And I'm actually looking at some of the last lap times of our leaders. Only 0.3 of a second the difference between Isaac Yen and Owen Blythe, but Owen now has just run a 138.01. The lap before he was in the 37s, but Mike Skepper's 0.4 of a second faster that last lap, but another 0.6 of a second slower was Isaac Yen, possibly because of some lapped traffic. But now only 8 minutes remaining. So if you're Isaac, you're just praying to the racing gods that these lap cars stay out of your way as far as possible, and that these V3 racing guys get to going at it pretty quick.
Yeah, and also could slow them down just a little bit, pay them off. These still guys. Mike is actually losing a little bit of time there. He braked way too late, but as we see here, Andreas just getting over to the side and give his position to the two chasing drivers here. They're the two chasing bulls, and that leading car here of the Lamborghini of the fiercely Ford Isaac Yen might as well have been a red cape for those two, as Skipper's is really piling on the pressure. But he can also see the timer at the moment. he knows that the closer we get to zero, the least amount of laps he actually get to overtake anybody. He has the chance. With only about 3 or 4 laps left, he needs to get this done, and it needs to get this done soon.
Absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not at any point we will see Owen Blythe let his teammate Mike Skeppers go by. Isaac Yen now only about half a second, the difference between Blythe and Skeppers, and barely double or triple that up to the fiercely forward yellow car there. Only 6 minutes remaining now, probably about 3 or 4 laps remaining. So this is going to be coming down to the wire here for the 196 of Mike Skeppers. And with how difficult this track is to pass on here at the Hockenheim ring in Germany, we're riding on board here now with the 196. Very close behind his teammate here, and oh, that is close. But this race is absolutely going to come down to the wire because, like you said, catching another driver is one thing, passing them is quite another. So we're going to see just how difficult we've seen, the overall pace of Mike Skeppers until he caught up to his teammate was 4 to 5 tenths of a second faster per lap. But now that he's caught up to that Lamborghini just ahead, his pace has significantly fallen off, and he's lost about 3 tenths a second just being behind his teammate, whether that be aerodynamic understeer that is causing that, or simply the fact that he's just in the way. But they're both together catching Isaac Jens. The question is Isaac going to be able to hold them both off for the win here? And if he isn't, which of the V3 Racing drivers is going to be able to take advantage quick enough to try to take away this win? But this is going to be coming down to the wire for all 3 of our podium positions of the overall race here. Of course, Daniel Weber with a commanding 6.5 second lead in the AM category. Now just passing 5 minutes remaining, coming down through turn 1, heading into turn 2, this rather tight right-hand corner. These drivers are going to try to take advantage as much as possible of holding some momentum here. Now, one of the V3 Racing drivers is going to be the next car to go 1 lap down, or I believe 2 laps down. It will be for Steven Kamke, currently scored in the 9th position in the AM category with those white rims on the white V3 Racing Mercedes AMG, and looks like a little bit of... Oh no! Contact between the V3 Racing cars, and... Oh no!
Oh my
Owen
goodness
Blythe
me,
hard into the wall.
Murdered.
That is going to be the end of the race for
murdered.
Owen. Oh my gosh. That had to have just been misjudgment from Mike, but oh my goodness. Maybe Owen had braked a little bit earlier there, but hard into the wall, hard contact, and completely lost the front end of that car. You can see Stefan well out of the way, and Owen just watches his chances at a win drive off. Yeah, it looks like he just misjudged it. They were both going into the corner together. They were so close together with how close they were driving to one another, and then nearly contact with Stefan.
My
Things
goodness.
are falling apart for the V3 Racing team here. Owen going to try to limp it home for a P3 finish if he can, but with currently 3.5 minutes left, I don't think he has the pace. How far back is Kiefer?
Let's see here. No,
Yep,
he's
not far
close.
back
He's
at all.
gonna get it.
Oh, absolutely.
He's gonna get
the
it.
question is, how far back is Owen gonna fall here? He's gonna try to recover some points, I'm sure, but I think Andy Gorton has a great chance at taking away that position. The overall speed, I'm sure the handling of that car has to be absolutely horrific. You can see just how much damage there is, especially to the front clip of the car, the nose of the car nearly taken off entirely, but somehow is managing to stay ahead of Andres Ansu. Stays out of the way here and immediately going to try to get into the slipstream of Kiefer. Yeah, there's Kiefer gone by, and wow, that's not even close. But I think we will next time or the time after, we're going to be looking at the white flag pretty soon here. That's going to be an interesting team debrief at the end of this race, isn't it?
Definitely. I would not want to be the, flying on that wall, but Isaac is gonna be, he will be jumping up and down right there.
You have to imagine there's a little bit of a smirk on the face of that 112 driver.
Yeah, because they just gifted him this win, because I know that Shivers is fast, but if Jan is just keeping it on the track, they're not gonna catch him. In this beautiful looking Lamborghini, that is really beautiful in that bright yellow there, right there.
It is quite lovely,
Um,
isn't it?
it really is. As Shivers just putting on the flamethrower of the back of the McLaren right there, and let's just see here as Bly is getting passed in a moment by Gordon. Just he's understeering and that car's just completely damaged right there. They're just overtaking him down the straight. He's just so slow and with
And he still has the last 2 more laps to get through this.
2 more laps. Yeah. Asher's gonna pass him, I think. Silver and Halwell maybe even. He's gonna jump.
Yeah, I think he's gonna go.
He's gonna fall
all
out
the way down to
almost.
the top 10. Yeah, he's almost gonna fall out of the top 10. I'd have to imagine. And if I'm Miranda Luke, I'm pushing as much as I can, as much pace as I can get out of that Hyperion Racing Orange BMW. Push as much as you can, and some tight racing down in the AM category between the Frenchmen there, Arlene and 14 to the inside, or what will become the inside. Tom O'Connell takes that position away from him and sets his sights then right ahead on the Centurion racing car, and that really brings back the battle that we had in our sprint race. Asher Blythe now officially takes that 5th spot away from his brother, who continues to try to limp that car home, and full credit to Owen for getting that car back facing the right direction to try to make a move here. The question is, are Hallowell and Silver Tam going to be able to make that move around? And ooh, that was an interesting incident from Daniel Vanderlinde coming through, looks like headed towards Parabolica. So a few bad incidents for him. A few sketchy moments even. So I believe that is Silver Tam who has taken over that position. The question is, will Rasmus Verblon and John Hallowell be able to take spots away as well? That is the white flag that is out. 0 minutes remaining on the clock. We're going to keep an eye here on Owen. I don't think Mike Skeppers is quite close enough to make any sort of a move on Isaac Yen, but just not even close. I think
over
he's just,
3 seconds.
Yeah, I have to think that after that contact, he kind of just let the pace off.
Yeah, I think so as well, but he also lost quite a bit of time. So I think there's no way that he's gonna give theirs. Bly has just fallen all the way down to P9, and interesting to see if Luke is gonna get him here at the end. It could be really close, but as this race is getting to the end with high drama, as always, and we are seeing Isaac Jan here coming up. He has had a perfect race. He has not put a foot wrong. Just concentrated on getting the lap times, and at the end, with a little bit of help from the V3 drivers, it was enough for him to keep the car in position, and he will take his first victory in AOR. Isaac Jan for Fierce Forward. Oh, Shivers is off.
Unfortunately, I hate to put this out there, but my iRacing crashed.
Your iRacing Shivers is, I think I don't know what is going on here. He's slowing. Oh, he is getting the position back to Owen. He's giving the position to Owen. He has now crossed the finish line in P8. Mike Shivers has gone off track and given the position to Owen Bly, and that is sportsmanship as we like to see it.
Absolutely, and this is going to kind of turn into a little bit of a radio broadcast because I have lost my iRacing, unfortunately. But
as the winner of the AM class will be Daniel Weber, and he has been driving a masterclass, and Fenderlin with a couple of off tracks that could have been moments, but kept the car on track to get his P2 in the race. And then the close battle here with Thomas O'Connell and Adrian Grant here within less than 2/10 less than 2/10 of a second between those two when they crossed the start finish line. And what a race! What a race that we have had today. And Hockenheim, they said, was a bit of a weird track to have GT racing on, but I like it. It was really, really, really good. Some great racing out there, and
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I want to give full credit to Isaac Yan because seeing those V3 Racing drivers, coming right up your tailpipes has to be incredibly intimidating. So kudos to him for keeping his cool and not making any mistakes, because without that, he may have ended up, in a wall like we've seen some other people end up there. So, get to go through our results here. Isaac Yen is going to take home the win in the overall category. Kiefer McKenna ends up with a P2, a quiet P2, but a very good points day for Kiefer there. Andy Gorton manages to squeak by with a P3 finish, so that's the podium there for Andy Gorton after a little bit of an off earlier. Asher Blythe misses the podium by just one position, but a great race from him, and absolutely by far his best race in the AOR series here. Then Silver Tam, Rasmus Verblance, so the two Radix Racing teammates, going to come home P5 and 6. A great job by them to make that happen. Owen Blythe, who was able to limp at home in 7th. A spectacular job by him to bring that very badly damaged number 178 back into a top 10 position. Could have been much worse for him. Mike Skeppers, once again showing some great sportsmanship, dropping all the way back from P2 into P8 to allow Owen Blythe back pass. So that's going to actually hurt him a little bit in the point standings here, but when you're Mike, I don't think you really worry about those sorts of things. Then Reno Luke and John Hallowell going to round out our top 10 in the pro category. Reno with a really strong finish in 9th, so kudos to him for that as well. Daniel Weber going to once again show off his speed with an 11.5 second gap back to Daniel Vanderlinde, who we should also give credit to for a great race leading early on and was able to continue that strong pace that kept him well ahead of Tom O'Connell, who was another 21 seconds back in the BRT BMW. And actually, it looks like David Gowrie continued to have some issues. So after having a pretty solid sprint race, a not so good feature for the Centurion Racing Team BMW. But without further ado, I think it's time to have our nominations for Driver of the Race. And once again, to apologize for some of the technical difficulties we've had, unfortunately, and some interesting timing for that to happen. But Nick, we'll start off with you. What would be your nomination for our Driver of the Race?
Oh, that's a bit of Isaac. Actually, I really liked how Jan just kept his cool for the whole race, even with the B3 army getting closer and closer to him. You gotta give a shout out to Shepard for the show of sportsmanship here at the end. But I will say Isaac Jan was my star of the day.
I absolutely got to give him a nomination to Daniel Weber for just the absolute masterclass that he put on in that AM category. Even good enough that I would say could be argued to have him promoted into the pro category with just how great the pace is there and showing off the pace that is cases. But Daniel continuing to show off what it's capable of in that bright pink liveried Gabor Motorsport car. So that would absolutely be my nomination for Driver of the Race.
Yeah, I can't argue against it. He definitely had an amazing race, and yeah, let's see if he will stay in the class. The season out, it could be questionable. But just here before we close off for today, just have a show that this is actually one of the old calendars. We were actually supposed to be at Interlagos. Now it's Hockenheim. Next week we will be going to the
Nürburgring Nordschleife.
Yeah, the biggest, the stupidest, the dumbest track in the world. It's just ridiculous. It's such a challenge, but it's also a challenge to try and bring down a brick wall with your forehead. But it is really a difficult track, and the drivers definitely need to be on their toes for that one.
Absolutely, and we're going to get headed off to our second leg of the German section of our calendar. Of course, going from the United States over here to Germany, from Hockenheim, and then from the Nürburgring Nordschleife, and we look forward to seeing you there. But at the same time, next week we will be going to the Green Hell, one of the most treacherous and difficult tracks on the face of the planet, and certainly one of the longest. So once again, for myself, Brayden Hill, and my co-commentator Niclas Domino, we'd like to thank you for joining us in the Apex Online Racing broadcast booth, of course promoted by our sponsors, Elgato and Stream Deck. And once again, for everyone in the Apex Online Racing family, we'd like to thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your night.
And we're off.